There is nothing wrong with you.
I was watching Jeffrey Marsh today on Instagram, and it reminded me of the times where I was at school. Look at that beautiful background there. It reminds me of the times when I was at school and being somebody from I don't really like to label myself, really, and haven't done for a long time, but I knew there was something different about me, and it was really about my not being heterosexual, and I had a same-sex attraction, but it didn't really occur to me until I was sort of in my teens that this was the case. And I remember walking up the stairs of my school and thinking, and we'd never even had any sort of mention of gay or anything like that at this Catholic school in the 60s, as you can imagine. So it was pretty confusing for me, but I never felt one moment that there was anything wrong with me. And it wasn't really until, my late teens at school that I realized you shouldn't mention anything to anybody, that it's sort of verboten. And that's without anybody saying anything at all. I never really heard any, gay slurs at school, and trans wasn't even on the radar. But that just shows the power of heteronormativity, that without anybody even saying anything, you know that you need to keep quiet and not talk about it. So I wanted to share this little sort of clip by Jeffrey Marsh, because they are non-binary, and I just think it's so sad, and it's tragic that there is so much of this pushback, this reactionary kind of hatred towards LGBTIQ people. And I wanted to just share this little bit from Jeffrey Marsh. So thanks for watching, and please support LGBTQ people, because I don't see this getting any better, particularly on Twitter, on social media platforms like Twitter, since Elon Musk I thought is going to remove some of the rules and regulations that will just allow people to be as transphobic as possible. And as somebody who's a trans ally, I find that appalling, and if that happens, I'll be dumping that dumpster fire of a platform quick smart. Okay, so thanks for watching. Stay tuned for this quick couple of minutes by Jeffrey Marsh.
I want you to think about the in-between kids. The in-between kids. Imagine being 12 and you know you're trans, and the only hope you have. So your parents don't accept you, your church doesn't accept you, your school won't protect you from harassment, they just won't do a thing. And the only hope you have is to wait 5, 7, 8 years until you can go somewhere where you can fit in and find support. Please send good energy to the in-between kids. And if you suspect there is an LGBTQ kid in your life, be so good to that person, please.
But I guess if you're going to label us all child abusers, maybe you think that we do. Even further, trans people can rarely avoid transphobic attacks and misinformation, even if we try to avoid it. Take, for example, how I stopped following J.K. Rowling years ago, yet however, every single time she tweets about trans people, I wake up to my Twitter timeline full of discussions about her and the often misinformation and transphobic rhetoric she spouts. It's because my community, the trans community online, is obviously invested in trying to debunk and push back against her transphobic misinformation. And this is just one example of how trans people algorithmically are constantly confronted with transphobia whenever and wherever it happens, because of the way algorithms work to surface things relevant to a community at all times. So we constantly have to hear and see every single piece of transphobic rhetoric at all times that it happens, regardless of our desire to engage in it, if we desire to form trans-inclusive communities online. A nigh necessity for many trans people looking for community that they can't find in their daily physical worlds. But as a result, this constantly being confronted with this transphobic misinformation leads to that burnout that I've been talking about this whole video. Or trans people are also burned out because we're often the ones pressured to explain or educate about these issues, forcing trans people to constantly have to learn about transphobic misinformation just in order to try to tear it down. Think about how once Greg Abbott pushed the anti-trans healthcare guidance into effect, it fell often to trans people and parents of trans kids to push back, educate, spend time speaking out about it, and trying to push lawsuits against it. It's basically a tax on not only our finances, given the amount of money put into this, but also our time and our emotional energy. Not to mention the mental damage it does to constantly confront yourself with narratives of those who actively dehumanize you and being forced to try to understand their mindset at all times. The trans community is but one, but we're all dealing with a lot right now on top of what everyone is dealing with. So, most importantly, to end out this video, the thing that I want to tell you out there, if you're transgender, is that it's okay if you're not okay right now. It's okay to have an emotional reaction to painful circumstances. That's normal. You're okay for who you are. You know, many people will try and tell you that there's something wrong in the village and that something wrong is you. But in truth, there's something wrong with the village and not you.
There is nothing wrong with you.